This demo is going to go through how to create a multiple exposure with two images and kind of blend the edges of one into the other. So you're going to start with opening the road picture, and then we're going to place the water portrait on top. So if you're in Photoshop, you'll do File, Place Embedded. If you're using Photopea, you'll go up to the top and you'll choose Open and Place. So we're choosing water portrait. When that brings into the picture, we're going to have it down towards the lower part. We don't know exactly where yet, but you can bring it towards the bottom and press enter to confirm. We don't need to change the size at the moment, at least. Once we have this, we have two solid pictures on top of each other, so we're going to start to blend them. One great way to do that is with our blending modes. So if we click on our layers, we can see our background layer is going to be the road picture, and I highly recommend that you rename that. If I do a slow double click, it should allow me to rename it. Just easier to keep track of it. All right, then we're going to click on the water portrait. It's above the road photo, which means that we're going to add a blending mode to that one in order to see through it. If we click on the road picture and we add a blending mode, we're not going to see any changes happening because it shows it from the top down. So click on water portrait. And then the best way to do this with your own photos is to click on darken and then just use the arrow key on your keyboard and just arrow down until you find a blending mode that allows both pictures to show through without losing the details. So this one, we lose our highlights. This one, we lose the details in the shadows. So we're trying to find a balance of that. When I look here, I can see that I'm on screen, and screen works really well. We'll make some adjustments to it later, but that's a great start. Linear dodge works pretty well. It kind of makes the highlights a little too bright, so that we're going to stay away from that one for the moment. Overlays, interesting. It is a little dark. Hard lights, pretty good too. So you would just kind of see which ones would work best. In this case, based on these two photos, screen works the best. So you're going to click on the water portrait and you're going to choose the blending mode screen. Now, a couple things we want to do with this. We want to enhance all of this like we would one picture. So we'll still add color, contrast, those adjustments in there. We also wanted to make sure this blends and feels like one picture. So we're going to remove parts of the image. So right now we can see that there's a line going through here that we definitely don't want to see. And there's just some haziness on the top of this picture that we're going to get rid of, and we're going to mask it out so that we don't see it, so that it just looks like the water is on the road and we don't have this part overlapping on the trees. To do that, we're going to add a mask, and we're going to add one to both photos in this case because we're going to have to mask out part of each of them. So we're going to start with the water portrait. You're going to click on that layer, go to the bottom, and click Add Mask. And then we're going to do the same thing for the road. Click on it, click on the mask. So you can see the mask is that box that's added right now. And it is white, which means that on each of these layers, we're going to see everything on that layer. That's what white tells us. We're going to start to bring in black, and black is going to make that part that we make black, it's going to make it transparent. So let's click on the water portrait. On the mask, you can see there's a box going around it here. That's how we know. If you're clicked on the thumbnail preview, so the pixel preview, you're just going to paint on the pixels, which we don't want to do. So make sure you're clicked on the mask. Then we're going to go to our color swatches over here, and we have two of them. We've got, if you don't see white right here, there should be a tiny little white and black that you can click on, and it'll bring that up. So there's two squares. The one in front is the one we're currently using. The one in back is the one that is available for us to use. There's an arrow key that allows us to switch back and forth, or we can press X on our keyboard. That will allow us to do the same thing. Because our mask is already white, we want to make sure that we're going to paint with black in our mask. So we're going to switch these, and then you're going to go up to the paintbrush. With our paintbrush, we're going to change some settings. We want to avoid having the hardness all the way up. I'm going to reset my settings for you, because if we do that, we're going to get these really harsh edges, and we want this to look like it's going to blend. So we're going to start by bringing going to the circle, and we're going to bring the hardness down to about, let's try 20% now. We'll probably change it as we go. So softer on the areas we want to blend the most, and then we can harden the edge just a little bit where we want it to not be quite as soft. Then opacity. Once again, if I click down, you can see that edge is much softer. We're going to bring, I'm going to Control Z, undo that. We're going to bring the opacity down to about 70% to start, because that way we don't take away too much at a time. So you can see with that, you can still see some of our road picture in there. Oh, or I'm sorry, the water picture and the roads kind of peeking through. All right, we're going to start by getting rid of this. The bigger your brush is, the softer the transition. So you can use the bracket key, which is, there's two bracket keys, a left and a right. Left's going to make it smaller, right's going to make it bigger. They're just the two keys to the right of the letter P. You can come up here and change your brush size, but that's lots of extra steps, so I recommend that you use the bracket key. What we're going to do is we're going to start by painting just on the top. You should notice that it's painting in your mask. If you see that it's painting, let me pull this up again. It might not even let you. It doesn't let me. I'm going to rasterize it. If you start to see this, it might seem like it's okay, but I can see I have a black line on my photo, which down the long run, it's going to be an issue. Okay, so I'm going to click there, and we're just going to start painting, and we can see it's taking away that line. And then anywhere where the water picture goes on top of the trees and not the road, because we want the water to just be on the road, we're going to paint over that. And so you can kind of see the shape of where I've painted here. And I just took the layer, the eyeball, so the visibility for the layer below off, so we can see what it's doing. Then over on this side, same thing. But once we get close to the head, we're going to have to do a few things on the other layer. So make your brush smaller so we can get just a little more detailed with that. So I'm kind of trying to avoid getting too close to the head. I'm going to make it bigger because I'm kind of getting a harsh edge. So if I make it bigger, we want to keep some of that water there. If I make it bigger, it'll kind of soften it like that. All right, that's pretty good. We can always go and change it. Here's the one thing we don't want to happen. So I just took the visibility off the road picture, and I'm still clicked on the mask here. It's taking away part of the head, which we don't want, because we're going to make sure that stands out. So I'm going to switch to white. If you're going to switch to white too, if you're seeing the same thing, I'm going to make my brush smaller, and I'm going to come over and get all of that in. Okay, so I'm checking the layers below to make sure it's lining up correctly. And then I can switch and also come and kind of take some of that way if I need to. And then I'll check. I'm getting a little bit of a halo, which I don't love on there. So we're going to do one last thing. If you're seeing the same thing, I'm going to have the white up, make my brush bigger. I'm going to make my brush more transparent so it doesn't change as much at once. And then I'll kind of just give like this foggy feel over. So it's a little bit of a back and forth, okay, of getting it to kind of blend. That looks pretty good overall. We're going to keep it like that for now. I'm going to do one more kind of swipe over the head with my brush. And because I want the head to show all the way, I'm going to bring my opacity up. Okay, so we've got a weird little like color coming through here, and that's from the road picture. So we'll fix that next. All right, so we took away some of the image on the top. Now we're going to click on the road picture on the mask, and we're going to start to mask out some of the road picture on the head and the hand, because those are the two dominant things that we don't really need to see the road coming through. We really want to see the water and the road blending together, because that creates like this dreamy, like surreal, like picture, like feel to it. So we want those to blend together that way. So we're not going to go over them. We're going to click on the mask for the road. We're going to do black. Let's keep our opacity at 75%, and then we'll go over the head. Now, if you start to go off of the head, you can see it's going to make it transparent. checkerboard pattern. That's what that is. Just means you went off too far. So I'm still seeing that. So I'm going to make my brush smaller so I don't have so much gradient showing up around there. And I can come in and just paint right over there, because what's happening is it's taking away that part of the road. So where those two photos are blending, it should just kind of show up with pretty much the face only. This doesn't work for every picture exactly this way, but for this one, it works really well. I'm going to do the same thing for the hand. It doesn't need to be quite as precise, but that way it'll make it a little more dominant, because those are kind of the two things you look at that are coming out of the water. All right, that looks good. You can see, you know, right here, looks like I could go over this right there as well. So the little like dark areas that I'm seeing on my mask mirror or look like what is masked out, what I don't see in that image. And the same thing up here, we can see the shape there is kind of masked out. So that's the idea. And they blend. Super cool. All right. Next, in the next video, I'm going to show you how to do adjustments for each. So this is just part 1 of Skill Builder 1, blending 2 pictures and masking. And then next we'll do the edits for each of them.